Hello, happy Thursday or Friday. What is it today? It's a Thursday. I think my mic is probably a little loud at the moment. So let's switch that up a bit. Let's switch that up a bit. That should be better, I think. I think that should be good. Anyway, welcome to the show. No. Welcome. Okay. The ear is it really rough? Is it really rough on the ears? I don't know. My program is doing something strange right now. We've had a lot of technical difficulties, unfortunately, today, but we're working through them. We're working through them, honestly, piece by piece. It's small. Tell me if the mic should be better. It should be better. I'm not sure if it is, but it from what I'm seeing, it looks like it. Anyway, what's up, guys? I am F. Dot. You already know that I'm Tom. We're hanging out. Yes, that's for the blinds to remind me that they get pointed up. I don't really know what I'm doing. But anyway, what's up? It's a Thursday, and I'm here with some friends of mine, or at least potential friends. We'll see if they hate me at the end of everything. But so NME had some changes very recently to their Smite team. We saw this team basically split in half and go separate directions. And today we're going to talk with Clerkie and Frank, two of the co-owners of NME. But we're going to get a little bit more involved as far as learning about what they are, because they have made an impact in the Smite scene, and it seems like they're here to stay. And I, for one, welcome our new overlords. Anyway, first of all, thanks, Kurt, for the 2-month sub. And hello and welcome, Clerkie and Frank. How you guys doing today?
Bueno.
Doing great.
Doing?
Awesome. I think I got to make you guys a little bit louder, but in general, I think we should be fine. So, welcome to the show. You guys have been hanging out in the Smite scene for a while, sort of around, and now you have made it over the first hump. A lot of times we see teams sort of come in for a minute or so and then leave, but you guys have been here for a while.
Didn't we have like a 1 in 20 team at some point too?
Once upon a time, yeah, that was it seems like a long time ago. But I mean, speaking of a long time ago. You guys started NME before you came into Smite, right? You guys started pretty young. 2012 was when NME was formed. So why don't you give me a little bit of the origin story, if you will, of where NME started?
So I was going to an engineering school a while back, and I was still trying to be a pro COD player at the time, and that really wasn't working out. I was kind of washed up, so I decided. And engineering wasn't working out as well, so I decided why not switch to business and try to build teams, which was what I was good at the time. So back in 2012, I wouldn't even say that was when NME was formed. I mean, I guess that was when it was incepted.
Yeah.
Is that even a word? But I basically sent COD kids on buses to events that I would coach from my dorm room, and I was getting some really, really good results doing that. So I decided, why not ask my buddy down the hall, Chachi, if he wants to go larger scale with this and try League of Legends. And we made LCS in our first try in 2015, and it's just everything has grown from there.
That's pretty sweet. You guys, as you said, you started off as a player in a different game, and then I guess League of Legends is the point. Was that the first game you moved to as the org?
Yeah, we also tried a little bit of Halo and just stuff like that, but I would say League of Legends was our first real tangible venture into esports.
Nice. And so now you're obviously working in Smite. Are there any other games that NME is involved in?
So we were involved in CS:GO. We went through a little bit of a mix-up, and what we're doing right now as an organization is we're working on some stuff in the background, and we're kind of just biding our time to kind of do a really, really, really big step forward as an org.
Ooh.
So hopefully we have some news on that in the near future.
All right. So that I mean, right away that sounds exciting. It sounds like you guys are off to a good start. Frank, what part, were you a founder, or did you sort of come online a little bit later?
I came online when the League of Legends team was formed for the expansion tournament in League of Legends. I guess that was about 19-20 months ago, and came in as an owner then.
All right.
And I've been on board since then.
That's pretty cool. So on your day to day, I guess. What do you, Frank, specifically you, and then I'll ask Clerkie in a second. What's your involvement in NME's day to day stuff?
I manage all of the managers. My main job is making sure that the organization stays focused in every game that we're playing.
So you watch the Watchmen. You make sure everybody's doing their job.
Yep.
Yes, and then I also am the main negotiator and contract writer and making sure that those contracts get signed. I work closely with the teams to make sure that uh, any personal problems are dealt with, and try to make sure that the organization not only stays afloat but profits and succeeds.
Nice. So it sounds like you're on the side of business. I hear a lot of contracts and a lot of like revenue and ROI and a bunch of like big businessy words like that. Clerky, what about you? Are you more like the CGO, if you will, the gaming guy for the team?
So I'm kind of an outward-facing president slash CEO face for the company. So what I do is I'm the visionary. So I plan where I want the organization to be a year in advance, and Frank kind of keeps my vision in line. So he decides what's realistic, what's not realistic, and I stay hands-on with the players as well. I'm really hands-on with my players. That's my favorite part of this whole thing. I'm really interactive with the fans. So yeah, I basically decide where I want the organization to go, and Frank figures out what's feasible.
That works out. I mean, it sounds like it kind of sounds like. Actually, I don't know who I would put in the role. Originally, I was going to say it sounds like Clicky's the driver and Frank is the passenger navigator, making sure everything winds up going the right way. But honestly, I think with that metaphor, you could flip flop it either way. But it sounds
Yeah.
like you guys have a perfect sort of setup. Is there a third guy that's involved as a co-owner by any chance?
So yeah, we have Chachi. He was my main investor. He still is the main investor into the organization right now. He handles the finances, and he's another one of my checks and balances.
Okay,
And
so that works out. So it's pretty much Clicky's you're the sort of like outward face and the visionary, as you so aptly put it, Kanye. And then Frank on the other side is the guy keeping everything in the lines, and then the money back has to come from somewhere, and that's Chachi's role.
yeah. He also is really good at making sure that we're all together for meetings, and he's really good at leading meetings to make sure that we get stuff done. Because without Chachi, our meetings tend to end up us being sharing like YouTube videos and watching concerts and a Skype call. So yeah,
He's
he
a great
keeps everything in line.
mediator.
Yeah, he's a great mediator.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys have a lot of it down pat, because I mean when you look at these older organizations, everybody in esports is generally young, and I say generally, but when you look at the owners of the orgs, they're for the most part a little bit older, and with age comes wisdom and tenureship or whatnot, just plain experience. So you guys have sort of a three-pronged approach, and that works out. I like that you used the word checks and balances. Have you found out that this sort of team-based strategy has helped you out to be successful?
Um, I've I've seen it to be really successful, and then I've also seen its flaws. But I really like where we're at right now. And I wouldn't trade it for the world, honestly.
Nice. For what it's worth. I mean, that's how a couple of the families in The Sopranos were run by three separate dons. So I mean, you're following a winning business model of the mafia for what it's worth. So,
NME is the mafia family of esports. Hell yeah.
there you go. You're the mafia family of esports. Very good. And then, as I said, you got your start as a player, and then you moved on to League of Legends because I don't know, it's the big duh, right? Shoot for the stars and or
Yeah.
moon. Yeah, shoot big. And then you wound up in Smite. So talk to me a little bit about how the decision was to come into Smite. Like what who decided, hey, we should look for a Smite team?
So way back when, I would say we're gonna go all the way back to the 1 in 20 team.
Okay.
Just to start out.
Yeah, yeah.
So I saw
Who
Cognitive.
was on that team originally, by the way?
It was Takity's team, and we had like Jerpy and Maddie Pocket at some point as well. So
Hey, I like
uh,
Maddie.
I love those guys, but they didn't really bring results. So,
Mhm.
but yeah. So basically, way back in the day, I know David Fry. We talked to David Fry a
Oh,
lot.
nice. That's really cool. How well do you know him? He's a good friend of mine.
I know him decently well. We hung out a bit at Smite Worlds. I saw that Cognitive won the World Championship. I really liked the prize pool numbers, obviously from a business side, and I kind of did a little bit of research on the community, and I really liked it. And so we went into it picking up Takity's team,
Nice.
And after one split, Frank kind of took the helm there, and he put together what the team that you guys know nowadays. So Frank, I don't know if you want to extrapolate on that, but
Sure. I mean, the main reason to get into Smite is I was able to do a cost benefit analysis, and I noticed that uh, even paying the players more than almost any team was paying players, we were able to come out with basically a free team.
Word.
It was really simple decision to make because it was a win-win. We could go we could be in eighth place, and the team would just be free exposure. So it was a really easy business decision to make. But Vicium actually came to me because he was on the original squad,
Mm-hmm.
and he told me that he could not be on that squad any longer, and really wanted to be on a new team, uh, and introduced me to Pain, and
Oh wow.
we hit it off really quickly, and and I felt like Payne was the type of mature, older veteran player that's necessary to make a new really good team. What's really hard to do when you're building a team is finding the right mix of veterans and new talent,
Mm-hmm.
and having that veteran as a team captain really allows a team to evolve quickly into a top team. So once I knew Payne, and I had talked to him for about a month, we decided to move forward with that squad.
Nice. I mean that worked out to your benefit. Obviously, Enemy saw some quick success after that. That's actually really interesting that Vicium was the one, or Vedium as he likes to be called now. I don't know. He's changed the pronunciation in his made up name a couple of times now. So I don't know. Tomorrow it might be something different. But either way, Connor Vicium. That's interesting that he introduced you to Pain, because Pain and you, meaning the royal you, Pain and Enemy, seem to have a very close relationship. You said you said that you and Payne had hit it off. Can you expand on that? Like how close are you to Payne, and how quickly did that really happen?
I noticed a lot of myself in him. I guess was kind of the big thing. He has a business mind. He's willing to do what it takes to be successful,
Mm-hmm.
and is willing to take the necessary risks to not be mediocre.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I know you in passing, right? We met at Smite Worlds, and
Right.
we've chatted here or there, but I can definitely grasp an air of responsibility out of you. And like Adonis said, one of our commentators here at the SPL, the admins always talk about how Payne is one of the most responsible captains around. And, we mentioned before how you're really the business minded aspect. So that definitely clicks. What about you, Clerky? Did you become close with Payne the way Frank did?
I became very close to Pain at Worlds in particular.
Yeah, that's
Um,
that's something I noticed just hanging out with you guys at Worlds, and there's that picture that I looked for those two pictures, Dan. I looked for those two pictures, Clerky, for like an hour. I came home from work and just looked. I couldn't find them, but there's this one picture of Payne's pointing up to like the abyss. You can't really see anything, but then there's like a grainy cell phone camera of Clerky from the balcony pointing down. It seems like you guys had a really close relationship. So Frank said he saw something in himself in Clerky in Payne. What did how did you and Payne get together so well, Clerky?
so going back to my success in building teams in Call of Duty,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of did this model where I would get one experienced player, somewhat experienced player, and then he would lead brand new players, and he would kind of mold them into what he wanted them to be.
Right.
And Payne is one of the most responsible captains I've met in Smite. He's very mature, and he gets stuff done. Honestly, like
Yep.
he kind of like instills law in his team. I know a lot of people don't like that. They'll kind of see that as a personality issue, but that's what needs to get done. That's what gets things done in traditional sports.
Well, what do you
And
mean by that? He like does he like rule with an iron fist? If you say something wrong, does he like kick you out or?
not necessarily, but he makes sure he makes sure everybody's working towards a goal.
Okay.
And that's when that vision kind of got lost. That's when the team kind of fell apart. But that's why the team got to Worlds. That's why the team got second at Worlds. I think Payne's a great captain. He's really really good.
Yeah, I mean, he just looking at it, a lot of people initially when Payne, so coming into the fall split, Payne essentially, or at least from the outside looking in, kicked 4 players and brought 4 new players on board. And initially there was a lot of backlash, and I want to go deeper into that. But for where we're at right now, what is that like? As an org, did Payne ask you if he could do that first, or is it as an org? Are you, because you mentioned you're hands on? Is that a situation that you talk to Payne about, or do you just sort of say, "Hey, you're the captain, do whatever you want with the team"?
Well, okay, so with that situation, we didn't own that spot yet.
Right.
That was the Legion of Carrot spot, and Payne had come to me with a proposed roster,
Okay.
and that was what was initially the roster for that split. It was the 4 guys that went to Worlds, and then Wiggles the Bay as the jungler.
Yeah.
So that was the roster that I was presented with for that Legion of Carrots spot. It had nothing to do with what came before.
Mm-hmm.
I had no control over what the roster was going to end up being, but Payne presented that roster, and it looked like a roster that could work, and so I okayed purchasing Legion of Carrots from him.
Nice. That's actually interesting because just for the inside info, as far as like how an org works, because I mean I don't know, and definitely some of our viewers don't. So Payne is a known entity, but a lot of those players on the team that would eventually become NME were kind of out of nowhere. Like Vicium, like you said, you had worked with Vicium before, but Salt Machine was, kind of a no. How do you go about sort of vetting those people? Do you just sort of trust Payne and his expertise?
I talked to Payne, and that was really my main contact. I don't know enough about Smite to make decisions myself.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think any of us owners know, but usually we can tell based on personalities whether a player will work well in a team environment or not. And
And
so I tried to steer away from people that wouldn't work in a team environment.
yeah, for me personally, being a former player, it's really easy for me to see what kind of personality will work as a captain.
Right. Because go ahead.
I've played for over 20 teams, and it's really really easy to see when someone knows what they're doing.
Yeah, because there's obviously Smite specific things, but in general, I mean, you can see what it takes to be a top tier competitor. Whether you're playing, there's professional bridge, believe it or not. There's currently a cheating scandal going on, but I mean, you can play professional bridge, or you could play Call of Duty or Smite. So what are some of the traits that you look for in a player when you're trying to like figure out that sort of stuff?
Just pure leadership, honestly.
Hmm.
He really knows how to rally his troops. Like he just really does. Like the environment that was described by Visham and Chaos, it's true. All that stuff's true. Like how the environment was very toxic.
Okay.
But it didn't just become toxic after Worlds. It was toxic for a while, and it's not a matter of like how the team was run or anything. It's just personalities and like cliques that came together, and and for Payne to be able to get the team together and end up making second at Worlds with an environment like that, that's unbelievable to me.
Now you mentioned this toxic environment. When I had Drelo and Mask on before a couple of days ago, and they kind of minimized the whole situation, saying like, look, there was a disagreement in the duo lane, and everybody just sort of picked sides. So how long was this? How long was this going on? And again, props for getting second at Worlds in a less than hospitable situation. How long was that going on with the team?
Well, the first time I heard of a problem was I guess about 2 weeks into the first split of the team.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that was very early on. It was 2 weeks after we had signed the team, pretty much,
Right.
and there were already some conflicts, but nothing that couldn't be handled internally.
So
Uh,
when you say handled internally, is that, again? I'm going to ask a similar question to what I said before. Is that sort of, hey, we trust you, Payne, do your thing, or is that something where Clerkie steps in and becomes more hands on, or maybe even you?
that's where I gave assurances that I can't go too much into that issue.
Sure.
But I gave assurances to a player that they were safe for the time being, and that smooth things over.
Okay, so there is some sort of, it's not just sort of, hey, we own the team, blah blah blah, and you guys, work amongst yourselves. There is a little bit of work from your end as far as smoothing over the team stuff, and like
Correct, but not very much.
okay.
Smite has been our least hands-on team of any team.
And
Uh,
does that come from lack of interest or just because you guys are far away from it personally?
no, that's because Payne's been able to handle so much internally.
Oh wow,
I think that Payne and Drelo both were able to handle the team so well that we didn't have to interrupt what they were doing
sure.
very often.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned Drelo, and as the coach, that's kind of that's kind of his job to make sure these toxic situations don't happen, and I guess a little bit of pain as a captain as well. Although by picking up a coach, you sort of relinquish that. Do you think Drelo did his job? Do you think it was a failure on Drelo's part for the fact that the team broke up, or do you think that he did what he had to do, getting the team to Worlds, and that be that?
No,
I don't think he should have picked a side. That's the one failing that I see is I don't think a coach should ever pick a side when it's an argument between players. Uh, they should take a step back and try to mediate the problem instead of pushing themselves into the problem.
What were you going to say, Clerkie?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say I think he did a great job while the team was together. He was very friendly. He was almost like an extension to the team.
Right.
So there's two kinds of coaches. There's kind of the hardball coach, and then there's the coach that tries to be your friend. He was a friendly coach, and he played that role really well. But like Frank said, when everything came down to it, I think he really shouldn't have picked a side. It creates more issues.
Sure,
As
and
simple as that.
yeah, I mean, we saw that with the split up of the team. For what it's worth, J-Lo, young coach, knew what he did. And you mentioned that he did he was a positive influence overall outside of this sort of isolated situation. He did a good job. Can you talk a little bit about what J-Lo did for the team?
He was honestly a warrior. Did you hear about Worlds?
The hospital story.
No, I didn't hear about this. No, what happened?
So the night before finals, when we were about to play Epsilon,
Right.
Drelo is like crawling through the hallway of the hotel room, screaming that he's dying and he needs to go to the hospital.
What?
And we were at the hospital with him until 3 a.m. and he had really, really bad food poisoning.
Oh.
And at some point during he wasn't really able to watch any Epsilon VODs or prepare for that match. But at some point during that night, he just gets up out of it. He goes from like being completely inebriated in his hospital bed to just getting up and saying, "My boys need me. I need to get out of here," and just acting well enough to get out of the hospital.
That's awesome. Unfortunately, there seems to be some sort of like food poisoning Smite magnet. Like,
Yeah.
we had a Cloud9 player Barracuda come in, a big LAN, and he got food poisoning. So that's unfortunate.
But he's very dedicated.
Yeah.
He's extremely dedicated. He really cares about what he does. You'll see some coaches in other games that just don't really. They like to just like kind of piggyback the team.
Right.
But he's very, very dedicated, and I have nothing but respect for him.
Yeah, because a lot of times, especially in esports, coaches can be. Because a lot of times in esports, coaches are kind of like new to the scene, so
Yeah.
coaches can be best friends or girlfriends, and not really offer much to the team. But he brought a lot as far as like strategy and stuff.
Yeah, and we're all really young. This is a really young industry. This isn't like hockey where you have like a 55-year-old coach that's been
Exactly.
that's been watching the game for 30 years.
I mean, you're an org owner, and how old are you, Clark?
22.
Yeah, so the whole industry is generally young, so everybody's sort of learning as they go, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and so he brought great strategy. I think we had some of the best pick ban in that entire tournament, Worlds tournament, and even in SPL, I think we had some of the best pick ban. Coming from League where our pick ban always hasn't always been the best, like it was really, really refreshing to see someone that was just on top of that. I don't know if like in Smite the pick ban, the entire pick ban thing is like super developed to the point where League is, but we were winning almost every pick ban that I watched.
Yeah, with Spine, especially recently, but towards the SPL, or towards the SWC rather. It was definitely a big deal as far as the pick span phase goes. So it sounds like everybody from the org side was really happy with the team. Now, obviously, like Frank said, there was knowledge that there was an issue early on. how do you deal with that as an org? Like Frank said, he made certain moves to try and smooth things over, but as an organization, do you guys just sort of like cross your fingers and hope for the best? Basically, what's the feeling like in an organization when the writing's on the wall? These guys aren't getting along well, but they're doing real well. How do you guys like? How does that feel in the office?
Well, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, if the team's winning, the players are going to be happy.
Sure.
That's all they care about is winning, honestly. But after a while, it really, really grinds on the players, and we see that, and it's actually heartbreaking because it's like I kind of like see my players, even though I'm 22, only 22.
Mm-hmm.
I see them as my children. In fact, a lot of them call me dad.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So it's like seeing my kids just fight to the death. I hate it. It tears me apart. And but at the end of the day, it happens. Like it's part. I mean, again, I come from Call of Duty. There's roster mania. If you don't win the event, your team's getting changed.
Yep.
The entire team's getting changed. So I've seen it time and time again. So obviously we're gonna try to work it out, but in this case it just couldn't work out. And I mean I would honestly attribute some of that to youth,
mm-hmm.
or like because a lot of these players, I think some of the players that left the team, that was their first year, like really really deep and competitive, right?
Yeah. I mean that was sweaty. That was Vedium's first year. He's he turned 16, right? Like
Yeah.
As you said, youth is a big deal.
So you can't really put anything against them when they're
mm-hmm.
making these decisions.
I think Clerkie just lost his mic for a second, but I wanted to
My
ask.
mic died?
Yeah, no, you're good now.
Oh, but yeah, so they don't really know what is the best for the team environment at that point.
Right.
Like honestly, longevity is what wins tournaments, what wins championships in esports. It's just a matter of keeping the team together for that long. That's the difficult part.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree, especially in the short time that Smite's been around. The two more successful teams have been the teams that really stuck together. Talking about old Dignitas with Zapman being together for a year plus, and then Cloud9 just now, parting ways and going different things. But so, Frank, I wanted to ask you, as more of the business-minded individual in the side of things, do you start when you see like inner turmoil, do you start thinking of like risk management and stuff like that, or when that stuff happens, is that just all Clerkie's job?
Well, I mean, obviously the hope is mediation.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the goal, is trying to figure out a way to keep a winning team together. So the main focus there is just trying to prevent disaster.
Right.
But once it becomes apparent that no matter what you do, some people are going to go.
Of course.
Then it becomes trying to figure out what's the best option for moving forward. What's going to grant you the most success in the future.
And so you guys have a new roster. We'll announce that in a little bit. But one of the things that I wanted to ask about, sort of the inner workings of an org, because it's such an interesting perspective. As you said, you start looking towards the future when you sort of get that something's going to happen, and the writing seemed to have been on the wall. Talking both to you guys and to the guys on the team, it seemed like everybody sort of got it that this team wasn't going to be around forever. Did you start looking for new players or replacements while the team was still together? Is that something that you guys practice, or did you wait for everything to finish before you looked around?
Really, I mean, in some games that would be our job. Mm-hmm. We would be looking for the players, but neither of us knows enough about Smite to find players on our own, and so we had both lineups try out new players to replace the other side, and so the rosters chose their own players.
Right, because initially it was the plan of the team was to replace Pain, right?
No. That we allowed both sides to try out new players, but we never had a plan to remove Pain. That was never a plan.
So you guys, from an org perspective, you guys were always gonna be. I don't want to phrase it like choosing sides, like it's some middle school battle, but like you guys were always gonna on the side of Pain because of the relationship you guys have, right?
Yeah.
No, it has nothing to do with the relationship.
Okay.
I think that's really important to understand, because yes, I like Pain, but I also like Sweaty. You know, I like both of those guys. It had nothing to do with the relationship. It had everything to do with the fact that there were problems that I could not fix,
Mm-hmm.
and that would not get fixed if we kept the other players, that can get fixed with Payne as a leader.
It was a matter of players wanting to work things out, and then other players that were just like, no, this isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work. It was a lot of scapegoating in my opinion.
Yeah.
Payne was trying to keep the team together. He was trying to keep all 5 players together, and 2 of those players would not stay together with him. Payne was trying to keep a winning roster together. The other side gave us an ultimatum that either we kicked Payne or they left. So we chose the side without an ultimatum that was trying to make things work.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. That's kind of like, negotiation or leadership 101. Anytime somebody gives you an ultimatum is usually time to, tell them to be gone or whatnot. That's not how it works. That's not how things work. But when I said relationship, I didn't necessarily mean that you guys are best bros, so you're gonna stick with your friend. And I'm glad you went into depth because it just paints a very different picture from what the public seems to think about Payne and him, being this backstabber that's kicking everybody. And you seem to paint a picture where Payne DeViand is more of a captain that just wants to try and win while maintaining some sort of decency within his ranks.
Well, I won't. I mean, that's the most recent issue. It has nothing to do with the Legion of Carrots
Right,
or
of course.
player kick. And with that, I think it was Payne trying to be better than he was before. I think the whole purpose of kicking the Legion of Carrots roster and bringing in this roster was to put together a team that could make it to Worlds and do well.
Which,
and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, and for the record, I 100%, and along with like maybe 3 other people, were on Payne's side when the whole team changed coming into the fall split. I thought it was the right move. And I know Payne for a couple of years now, and at the end of the day, the goal of a team is to win. You want to build friendships and relationships, but Care Bears don't win tournaments.
Weren't we projected to be worse than NA too at the beginning of that last split?
Yes, you definitely were predicted to be some of the worst team because a lot of those players were unproven, and a player like Vedium, no background coming in, but my professional opinion, he's one of the best hunters in the game. So definitely a big turnaround. Now, with respects to that's sort of all well and done, and we talked a little bit about the process, about how it was never on the table to really kick Payne because he was trying to work things out, and as you saw the team sort of figure things out amongst themselves, the players really brought the rosters to you guys. Was it up to you guys to evaluate, or did you just sort of let the players sort out which roster wound up being better?
It was more about each team's mindset, honestly.
Okay.
It wasn't really about the better roster.
And that's actually super interesting, and a big point that I want you to expand on, because that's an organization's viewpoint. A lot of times players and people and fans can get so enamored in individual players and the game that they forget about the bigger picture. So when you were looking at it, you just mentioned that it was more about the player mentality and their willingness to do what do you mean by that?
When I'm talking mindset, I'm talking about, we saw one of the fixes as being a short-term fix.
Right.
We saw the attitudes that were perpetuated toward the player that they wanted to change, and like, what happens if the new player starts having some of the same issues? Are they just going to keep replacing? Are they just going to keep perpetuating this issue over and over again? What we went with was what we felt to be a long-term fix. We don't want something that'll make us play better for the first 3 weeks of SPL and then maybe degrade over that time. We want a roster that's going to have a good mindset as a whole moving forward and want to improve over the course of this next season, because ultimately we want to end up at Worlds again. Last season our team caught fire towards the end, and that kind of catapulted us through Worlds. We want to see an improving roster. We don't want to see a short-term fix.
So before you mentioned how Payne's attitude this time around was maybe a learning experience from the first time, where he boots 4 players, everybody in the world hates him, and he accepts the role of the villain for a little while. But the second time this roster stuff comes around, he tries to be a mediator and tries to make everybody happy. Is that a similar situation for you guys as an org? Because you mentioned how everything seemed to be an issue from maybe not minute 1, but minute 2. And maybe you guys saw that was a get to Worlds, and who knows what happens after that. Almost was that a short-term decision, and now you've learned and making the long-term goal, or are these just two separate things?
Well, I mean, the first decision to have Payne kick the roster and all that was a long-term fix as well to our issue.
Okay.
But I feel like Payne wanting to keep the team together, he's built this roster.
Mm-hmm.
They've done really well. It's kind of become like his brainchild.
Right.
So of course he's gonna want to keep it together. He loves the guys. They all like each other, even though they have differences in game.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to keep it together. He wanted to figure out the issues. He was trying to expand his god pool. He was trying to do all these things to keep the roster together. And at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough. So Payne just took a moment at some point and stepped back, and he's like, I did it before. Why can't I do it again? And that's kind of been the philosophy behind this new roster that we're putting together.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Just looking at, learning a little bit from the past and looking towards the future. So before we get into the roster, I basically want to ask you one last question on the other guys. It sounds like, everything was swimming, and, I see you, Clerkie, talking to Vedium on Twitter. Everything seems hunky-dory. Are you guys still on good terms? Is there any bad blood?
I hope they make it to Worlds, because I want to see those guys again. I miss them. I love those guys. And I'm sure they like me as well. Even the players like each other. This was, I mean, obviously, like the day of, there were some kind of little jabby remarks or like jabby announcements from Vedium and the guys when the announcement came out. But that's how it's going to happen with any roster move.
Yeah, of course.
Any roster move is emotional, especially when we're getting close to the SPL split. I'm fairly confident that they thought that we were gonna boot Payne, and that's not what happened. So there were some emotional comments, but at the end of the day, we're all really close. We have a really, really healthy environment with our players here on the Smite side of NME.
And that's sort of part of being involved in esports, right? Dealing with the emotions. So when the players snapped off, is that as an org owner? Is that sort of like, because I mean, so for me working at Hi-Rez, when Hi-Rez does something that is not going to make everybody happy, a lot of times like I just put myself in that mindset. All right, people are gonna hate me for today. I'm gonna let it roll and deal with it. Is that sort of like, whatever, you're mad, talk to me tomorrow type deal?
I have so many stories.
No, I have so many stories dating back to like 7 years ago. But yeah, that's just how it works. I mean, and then from the PR side and everything, like it's something that I've been trying to get better with. I'm not anywhere near perfect with my PR. I'm far from it actually. My Twitter's kind of infamous, but I feel like we handled this situation really, really well. And I mean, I would love to see Sweaty and Salt and them in an enemy jersey again in the future. I'd love to work with them again, and I'd love to recommend them to anybody that's looking to pick them up. They're really good guys.
That's awesome. Honestly, that's the best possible outcome of situations like this. Everybody likes their drama for the moment, but at the end of the day, we're all here for a common goal, and a common goal to watch, enjoy, and honestly win. So you want to talk about winning, I guess the only other place to really bring this conversation is the future of NME and Smite. And you guys have already said, yeah, obviously we're sticking around. Payne Deviand is still your player captain and support, and then Chaos stuck around. Is that still the case? Is he still playing?
Yeah, so the way that we've kind of structured this, and Payne and Chaos grew to be very, very close. I think your stream's buffering, so they're only hearing a little bit of this. But so Payne and Chaos were really close over the last split. And so I think what's happened is Payne has kind of become a primary captain, and he's kind of named Chaos co-captain.
Okay.
So they're kind of gonna see if they can do this with the 3 new players that we've picked up.
That's a lot of fun. Chaos, side note, Chaos is a fellow New Yorker. Not even just a fellow New Yorker, actually. Chaos is a fellow Long Islander. Chaos lives literally 5 minutes from my old place. Like, my high school marching band beat his high school marching band up many times. So.
Oh shit!
It's real. But yeah, I have friends that actually taught in his high school when he went to high school, which made me feel really old and kind of weird. But regardless, so you guys are sticking around with Payne Deviand and Chaos, and I'm going to give you the floor. It's time to announce the new roster. You guys are continuing on, and you will be continuing on with who?
All right, so so keep in mind the old roster. We kind of Payne kind of brought some unknown players to the floor, and they kind of grew into themselves, and we ended up second at Worlds. So we've kind of used the same philosophy going forward with this roster. So we picked up a couple players from Risky Behavior. So we're getting Marauder, and their jungler Scream, Versio, and then we're also picking up Panda Cat on Hunter. So the roster is going to be Marauder, Versio, Chaos, Panda Cat, and Panda Beyond.
That's awesome. If you read me this roster last time, but before Payne kicked 4 people and got new people, I would probably say, I don't know how that's gonna do. But you know what? I had to trust Payne last time, so I think I gotta trust Payne this time. Is that kind of how you're? Because like we said before, you guys aren't exactly the number one thought process on Smite. So is this just a trust Payne, let him do his thing?
Yep. Honestly, but I've talked to the players, and they have really good mindsets. They're young. Our top and our jungler are I'm gonna say top because I come from the league. I know people are gonna kill me for that, but yeah, they have really good mindsets. They're even younger than Salt and Vicium, but they're very 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 good in the mindset category.
How young are they?
They don't want me to say the age, but they're younger than 16. At least one of them doesn't.
All right.
Verizio's 14 though.
Okay, so Scream is 14. I imagine Marauder. I know Marauder. Marauder and I go a little bit back. I imagine Marauder's the one that doesn't want to. But so they're young guns, which is fun. You guys can sort of, I guess, teach them and hone them into something like very specific. So that should be a lot of fun. Do you guys have any insight into what kind of players these guys are? Are they aggressive? Are they not? Or what's up?
Panda Cat's really aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a little bit of him play. He's a bully.
Yeah.
I've seen. I like it a lot. Our bottom lane should be called Panda Cat or Panda Beyond.
Oh God.
And Marauder and Brazil are really skilled players as well.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of them we saw a little bit of their performances in the relic